Hello, beautiful souls. My name is Jessie, and welcome back to another episode of Rewire to Inspire. This show where we'll dive into self-love, learn tangible ways to rewire the brain, and discovering your soul's purpose. The goal of Rewire to Inspire is to encourage listeners to begin doing the hard work, to get curious and open to maximizing your life. Our mindset shapes how we live. Depending on life events, traumas, and personal experiences, our mindsets are all vastly different. However, one thing we all have in common is the ability to rewire our mind, to change the narrative, and to pivot our lives. I hope you leave each episode with the belief that you are so worthy to live a life true to you. I look forward to chatting with you every single Tuesday and Thursday and helping you grow exponentially in all areas of your life. Without further ado, here's today's episode. Hello, you guys, and welcome back to my podcast, Rewire to Inspire. I am your host, Jessie Brown, and I am pumped up to be jumping on the microphone with you all for episode number 91. I could not be more excited about today's topic, today's content, all of the above. We are going to be diving into all things inner child, talking about our inner child dialogue, what our inner child might be needing. But before I dive into that, I really want to give some context. So as you listen to the beginning of my podcast, the things I like to focus on are inner child healing, discovering your soul's purpose, and maximizing your potential from a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And I realized that I've been doing a lot of podcasts around the growth area, but I haven't really been giving as much validation to our inner child piece. And what I'm beginning to realize is that our inner child holds so much power in our modern day life, and it still controls us and is present whether we're consciously aware of that or not. And oftentimes what happens is, depending on what your childhood was, how your upbringing was, we can either have a close relationship with our inner child, or we can want to suppress that so far out of the way that we don't even want to bring awareness to it. But the goal of my episode today is to not really talk about our inner child in a way of from a traumatized perspective, or if you had a hard childhood, but instead recognizing that we all have those parts within us that need to be childlike. We need to have play. We need to have creativity. We need to just turn off our thinking brain every now and again and just enjoy the little things in life. It's always so interesting. Like, if you want to have just an experience, just go to a park or go to a school, or if you have kids or whatever, and just watch them. This really surfaced because I just came back from visiting with my nephew, and I just watched him and just how curious he was. And he's a year and a half, almost 2 years, I guess, and just so curious about everything and picking everything up and making sounds and just laughing and just being so open-minded. And I understand that as we grow and parts of our brain develop and we learn things and we get responsibilities and we grow up and et cetera, et cetera. However, a part of me was just like, oh my gosh, if I could just be a child for a day, if I could just have your responsibilities for a day, like, life would be good. And as I was sitting there, I'm like, wait, why can't I? To a certain extent, of course, but why am I not pouring in and making conscious time to just be a child and have that inner child experience? And this has kind of been coming up a lot for me. So it's kind of all intersecting into this podcast episode, because this also came up for me last night when I was painting. I decided I wanted to paint. I was needing to do something creative. I was just feeling it in my soul. And I painted for almost 3 hours, and I just disconnected from the world. I was listening to podcasts and painting, and it was honestly just the best Friday night ever. I now have something that I can look at. It's time that was just used in such an amazing way, and I got to use a different part of my brain and just allow my creativity to come out and just relax and not stress for a minute. And it just made me so stinking happy. And as I was sitting there, I'm like, as a child, I used to love to paint. I have such vivid memories of going to my grandmother's house, and she had a huge craft room, and me and my cousin would always go through all the paint, and we'd print off pictures and we would paint them, and we would make crafts, and we would just do so much fun, crafty, artsy things. And I'm like, duh, like no wonder that makes me so happy, because those are things that have made me happy since I was a little girl. And every time I do those things, little Jessie is getting that same excitement. And that's when I get to have play and I get to have fun and I get to be creative, because anybody who knows me knows that I'm very passionate and very into my work, and I'm very goal oriented. I'm very detail oriented. I'm very committed. I am very dedicated. I like to get things done. I don't like to procrastinate. Even today's a Saturday night and I'm recording a podcast, and it's like, there's nothing else I'd rather be doing. But I also recognize that so much lately of my days have been spent in the headspace of just feeling super low. And I will say winters are harder for me. I know that it can be hard on a lot of folks. My depression definitely gets increased in the winter. And so I have to be very mindful about spending time outside and looking after my body and nourishing my body. But even just the fact that last night for those 3 hours of painting, I was able to disconnect that for a moment and just be super happy. I'm like, why would I not share this with you guys and with the listeners of how important it is that your inner child is likely missing you, and vice versa. And again, let's say when you think of the word inner child, you don't even want to go there. It could be a really hard topic. You're thinking of, past memories, past things. One thing I always like to ask myself, and for you to contemplate, is if there's blocks there, if there's negativity there, if it's hard to go there, what can you ask yourself from the frame of, what did I not get as a child, or what was I needing as a child that I didn't get that I can give myself now? What was I needing? Was it love? Was it validation? Was it acceptance? Was it to feel seen? Was it to feel accepted? What was it that little you that still lives within you needed that you now as an adult or grown up is able to provide that for yourself? Because the thing is as I said in the beginning of this episode, our inner child is in there and it comes out more than we realize. There's something called internal family systems, IFS. It's something that I used a lot with my clients, a concept I used a lot with them. And basically what it means is that we have these parts of us, right? We have different parts of us that become active at different times. When we're around our parents, a different part of us might come out versus when we're around our parents. If you think of the movie Inside Out, basically when you're in her head, you see all her emotions. You have anger, you have sadness, you have joy, you have disgust, you have, I can't even remember them all. But anyways, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Those are different parts of her, and we all have that. And this can get really miscued depending on the severity of your childhood trauma, as far as how your parts have split and how they've adapted and how we've developed coping mechanisms. However, we all have parts of us. And so if there's one part of your childhood that's still in there and is still very much hurting and is still needing something, the only way that we can really begin to heal that is to tap into it and to bring awareness to it. And anytime we do these activities that we know would have made our younger self happy, we're giving ourselves that love. We can still heal those parts of us even though we're not in those moments anymore, which is such a beautiful thing because we're removed from that environment or those people or those places, but we have the ability as adults to go back in a safe way and to tend to those parts of us. And so when I was sitting here thinking about what do I want to leave the listeners with, what came up was awareness of knowing that we all have an inner child. We all have a piece of us in there that is needing something that it never got. This is going to be on spectrum. Some of us were maybe needing way more, and some of us maybe got those things or felt like we did. Another thing that you can ask yourself is, what is your relationship when you think of your younger you? Do you want to suppress it? Do you want to push it away? Do you want to ignore it? Do you want to bury it? Do you want to bring no awareness to it? And so bringing that up. The third one is that it's so important that we as adults act like a child more often. And what I mean by that is that we turn our thinking brain and our logic brain off from time to time and to just be. Think of those times that you go on vacation and you're at the beach playing, or you're out in nature, you're on a hike, or you're playing with Play-Doh, you're coloring, you're doing all those mindfulness exercises that we talk about. As I began to look at them and to think of them, I'm like, Those are all very childlike things, and they make us feel good. There's something there, right? Some amazing things that you can do are thinking back to your childhood of saying, what did I love to do? Some of us loved coloring, some of us loved sports, some of us loved painting, some of us loved watching Disney, some of us loved, eating our food a certain way, doing things like super quirky, wearing the clothes we want, wearing expressive colors, like just doing things that you think a child should do, but that we as adults also need to practice. So I really wanted to just end today's episode with, I hope you guys have some awareness now and are thinking of your younger you and are kind of noticing what they looked like, what they were feeling, what they were going through, what they were, experiencing at that time, what their world was like at that time. And I wanted to just leave you with some ways that we can connect with our younger self, connect with our inner child, and make them happy. And one of the most powerful ways that we can do this is to find an old picture of ourselves. Finding an old picture of yourself and looking at it can be super weird because you feel like you don't even know that person. You're like, is that me? It's super funny. The other day, my dad found an old drive in one of his toolboxes and gave it to my brother to go through it to see if there was anything interesting. And it was a bunch of old family pictures. And my brother was sending them in our group chat. And I just got flooded with all these emotions of like, I remember that day. I remember that outfit. I remember how I felt on that day. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I have such vivid memories and just, I can almost remember like full days from childhood, and I can remember exactly how I felt. I can remember exactly like words that were said on that day. I might be weird in my memory with a lot of things, which I already know that I am. I already know I have a photographic memory. But even just looking at those pictures allows you to have a photographic memory in a way because it's right there in front of you and you can look at it. But literally do just that. Grab the photo and just stare at it. Just look at yourself. Look at what you were doing. Who were you around? Where were you? What did that place mean to you? Who might have been around you? What did they mean to you? What were you maybe wanting to do on that day? What made you excited at that time in your life? And I find looking at a picture just allows us to actually think and get embodied into our younger self, especially if we've blocked that out. So noticing what comes up. Another thing that can be super beneficial to connect with our younger self is to write a letter. Write a letter to your younger self expressing all you've accomplished, all you've done, all you've gone through, all you've healed, all you've experienced, the good, the bad, the ugly. What does younger you need to hear? Is it permission that everything's going to be okay? You're going to be safe. You're going to make it through. I'm so sorry you had to go through what you went through, but I'm here now and I see you and I love you and I'm so proud of you. Sometimes just saying those words to ourselves is so freeing because we're able to just give ourselves what we never got, and being able to give ourselves things that we never got is one of the most self-aware, self-love things that we can do, because nobody can fill all those voids for us, but we can do the best of our capability to be able to give that to ourselves. So writing a letter to your younger self is super, super powerful and just an amazing, amazing experience that I highly recommend to anybody. The next one is to meditate and to visualize / embody. I have done inner child meditations before. There's guided ones on YouTube. And basically, oh, gross, something in my mouth. Sorry for anybody watching video. But what I've done is I've watched these or listened to these visualization and meditations where you tap into your inner child, and I could just feel her. I could feel her thoughts surfacing through my mind. I can feel her feelings come up. And I just remember at the end just crying and crying and crying and releasing and just getting so much out that was suppressed. I've always been somebody that didn't really feel safe to share my emotions, and I felt like I had to go run to my room and kind of lock away from the world. And so I've just had years and years of emotions that I had just suppressed and kept within me. And listening to that 20-minute meditation literally allowed me to just take a deep breath and to just move forward, bring her with me for the journey, allow her play like mind and silliness and creativity to come out through the work that I'm doing. I even decided before I jumped on the microphone today, like I just want it to be more fun and more playful and just, me and not be so perfect all the time, or at least try to be, and just hone in and embody that, because I think those are the most relatable pieces of us. If we think about it, like, we were all once a child. We all have that in common, and we all feel that within us. And imagine all of us just being more childlike with each other, how much more fun we would have instead of just being so caught up in all the stressors of everyday life. And again, I'm not saying be a child all the time. Absolutely not. We have responsibilities. We have things to do. We have, get our arses in gear and get to work, while also remembering and reminding ourselves that it's okay to take that time and to take that intentional time, because we deserve it. So the meditation is huge. The last thing is to do things that would make that version of you happy. So I know for me, a huge one is like watching cartoons on the weekend. Even if it's just 20 minutes, watching cartoons just makes me so freaking happy. The other day I was folding laundry and I put on Little Bear on YouTube, and my inner child was just going nuts. I was so happy. I was calm. I was peaceful. I wasn't stressing or thinking about anything. And I literally think it's just because my brain was going, okay, Little Bear equals safety. We've done this. We've seen this. We can do this. When I have something else on that's, modern day stuff, my brain doesn't have that association with safety. So it's still spiraling. It's still, thinking about work, thinking about my next podcast, thinking about what I have to do on Monday, thinking about the next chore I have to do. It's just like go, go, go. And so when we have those safe, recognizable things that we can go to, our mind knows that means safety, or knows what that has brought us before. And those things that made you happy and that, you can bring back into your life. And one of the amazing things now about where we are with technology is it's so easy to get access to those shows and to old movies and things like that. I mean, Disney Plus, I would have done anything for Disney Plus when I was younger to be able to rewatch my favorite Hannah Montana episode, or my favorite, Sweet Life of Zach and Cody episode. Oh my gosh, I would have done anything. But the fact that I didn't have access to it and now I do, I'm just like, oh my gosh, my inner child would be so jealous of this. And it's just amazing to be able to give those things to you. And so I wanted today's episode to be less structured and more just fun and playful, and really that to embody our inner child, to let her speak and letting her come out today, and to give you that permission. I honestly challenge each and every one of you listening to today's episode, whether you have kids or you don't, to take time today, even if it's 10, 15, 20 minutes. Do something your younger self would have loved to do. Cut your grilled cheese a certain way, eat with a silly spoon, watch a certain show. I don't know, sleep with funny pajamas on, sleep with your pajamas inside out just to be like quirky and fun. Just do something that your inner child would have found super funny and just super fun, and have fun with that. Be silly. We all need that. And especially I'm noticing, again, we're all very disconnected. We're all very stressed. We're all very exhausted. We have a lot going on. How can we tap into those parts of us? And also through doing that, healing those parts of us that might have never got to feel that safety when we were younger. And so being able to do that now in a safe way. So from my inner child to yours, hi, I see you. I'm so proud of you. You're doing such an amazing job. And I hope you know that. And I hope you know that you're so worthy to tend to that and to heal that and to validate and see yourself and know that that part of you still exists within you, and it deserves to come out in a safe and recognizable way. So thank you guys so much as always. All the love. I look forward to chatting with you all next episode. Bye, you guys. Thank you all so much for tuning into today's episode of Rewire to Inspire. I absolutely love connecting with you all, so make sure you're following me on Instagram. I am at Jessie Brown 13. If you enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to leave a review or share with someone you think would enjoy. I look forward to chatting with you all next episode. And remember, get out of your head and into your heart.